How do you do? Storyteller here and back with another weekly journal. It has been quite a week. I have been hiking in the mountains and traveling, and I've been in the car for hours on end. It's been quite an exciting week. The beginning of the week I don't remember much of just because so much has happened since then, but it was probably a pretty basic week. Like I went to my job. You guys know I work retail. Things like that. Just waiting up until Friday when we left. We woke up at an unholy hour of the morning, probably 4 sometime, to be out of the house by 6:30, sometime around there. Myself, my mother, and my aunt went up into the mountains for hiking. There's this place, I can tell you now just because it was such a long drive and I'm not there now. We were up in New Hampshire. We went to the Franconian Notch and the top of not Mount Washington, but I think it was Mount Liberty, because we could see Mount Washington, but we weren't on it. So I have a list here. So the drive up was about between 3 and 4 hours to get there. So that was interesting. The whole time through Vermont and New Hampshire, the majority of signs that we saw were warnings of moose crossings. And I saw no moose. There were no moose anywhere. It was complete lie. No moose. But there were a lot of signs. Let's see. Okay, so after the long drive, which, by the way, I slept most of the way, so it wasn't too bad. They are both so loud. Like, my mother and my aunt, they're the sisters. They are so incredibly loud, so it is unbelievable that I got any sleep in that car, but I did. I finally fell asleep the rest of the way, and I woke up in New Hampshire. Yay! And let's see. When we got there, there's 2 places that we were going there for. One is the Notch, which is a divide between 2 mountains where lava used to be, I think, and it carved out the area, and then it's been washed away, and now there's just a giant abyss in between 2 rocks, and they've built a wooden staircase into the side of the mountain, which takes you up along a waterfall and a river. So you're over the river on a wooden staircase attached to the mountain. It's pretty cool. And the other place is a tram car that takes you up to the top of, I believe it's Mount Liberty. And up there's a restaurant, there's a cafe, and then there's hiking trails at the top of the mountain. So the first thing we did was took the tram, and I'll show you guys some of the pictures soon. I'm still editing them. I thought I would be done by now, but there's a lot of pictures. I took like 500. So you'll be able to see, there's this tiny box car. It works like a ski lift, but you're enclosed completely in a box. And it takes you up to the top of the mountain. The trip takes 7 minutes, I do remember that. It takes 7 minutes to get up to the top of the mountain. And you're watching down below, it's warm, it's nice, it's kind of not sunny, but it's a little overcast, but it's not terrible. But as you're getting up the mountain, you're getting into the cloud level, and the fog, like the condensation level, whatever it is, the dew point, something like that, is different, so there's a heavy fog, and as you're going up, the ground below you just disappears into white, and we're going up, you can't see anything in front of you, you can't see behind you, so it honestly felt like being in a submarine, because we're just gliding along, and every once in a while we'd pass a support tower holding the bridge up, and it would can't see it, oh, there it is right there, whoosh, and it's gone, back into the whiteness, into the abyss. It's honestly like being underwater, or in space, but underwater is creepier to me because you guys know I hate water, so it felt like being in a submarine. Just, the towers going by look like sharks going by. It's so creepy, but it was absolutely fantastic. We get up to the top of the mountain, and you can barely see anything. Like I can't gauge anything. Here to this wall, you could maybe see your hand, maybe. But any further than that, you can't see. Everything's just a white blur. but then you can see the tops of trees, and trees on the mountains are much shorter for some reason. I don't know why, if it has something to do with the oxygen levels, if it has something to do with the light, but for some reason trees on mountains are wicked short, like maybe 7 feet tall. I was taller than a lot of the trees, so, but it was enough that you could definitely get lost. They were tall enough that you could get lost. So yeah, okay, trim up. Oh, and every time we would pass by one of those support towers holding up the cables, because you're elevated, you're going up the mountain on cables in a car, and they're attached by support posts. And every time you go by a support post, the tram car would sway back and forth, then you'd be rocked around, which, terrifying, but absolutely amazing. Such an experience. But, the top of the mountain, okay, we get up there, and there's some kind of festival going on. It was called the Bone Fest. Apparently, it's this group of musicians that clatter either sticks or bones, not sure, sticks or bones together to make clicking. It's legit like this. And they think it's music. They think it's music, but they do it in one hand. It's like this. But it's a lot louder. I can't do it. I'm not talented. I don't have the skill. But they sit there and tap their sticks or bones. They call it the Bone Fest, so it might be bones. I think it might have been. I honestly can't tell. But they're sitting up there on the top of the mountain, and there's one guy. One guy has a fiddle. And all of these, there's gotta be 30, 40 clickers. That's why I call them. I have nicknamed them the frickin' clickers because of how completely obnoxious they were. Sitting there, one fiddle to their name, 40 people. Craziness. So we get up there and we see those people and we're just like, is there some kind of sacrifice going on? Are we having a ritual right now? Should I be concerned? And there's a like I said, there's a cafe on the mountain, highest tap in New Hampshire. Took a picture of that sign, but we're in the restaurant. Cafe, it's a bunch of tables and sandwiches and stuff. There's barely anything up there because it's a mountain, but we're sitting at a table, and all of the other tables have clickers at them, clicking their sticks, and I'm staring at them like, you can click the whole time in here? And I'm staring at them and they're making direct eye contact with me. Click, 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 click. I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna kill somebody. It was just, who sits in a crowded restaurant and clicks sticks together? I understand it's their festival, it's their gathering of the stick clickers, the Bone Fest. I have no idea why it's called the Bone Fest. It might have been bones that they were clicking together. I honestly don't know. It looked like bones, but it sounded like sticks, so I have no idea. But for all I know, they could be clattering human bones together, getting ready for their sacrifice. I don't know. It was weird, but so that was interesting. Yes, I have nicknamed them the frickin' clickers, and they will be immortalized in my history of the first time I ever went up into the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I met the White Mountain cult of the frickin' clickers. Quite a story. Anyway, so eventually, as it started to get warmer, because we went there pretty early in the morning, by the time we got to the top of the mountain, it was probably about 10 o'clock in the morning, closer to noon after we had eaten and walked some trails and stuff. The fog actually started to lift, and you could see out into the distance. And our guide at the top, he wasn't showing us around the trails or anything, he was just the tram driver. I call him guide, he's the tram driver. He says you could see as far as the edge of Vermont, and in some places you can see to the ocean from there. And I don't know if I believe that, because I couldn't see that, but maybe on a perfectly clear day. But he said you could see for miles and miles and miles. I couldn't see that, because it was still so cloudy, but you could honestly see for so far. It was such a gorgeous view from the top of that mountain. And like I said, I think it was Mount Liberty that we were on, but I'm not entirely positive about that. Let's see. Oh, so yeah, we hiked around for a while. At the top Oh, it's pretty loud out there. At the top of that mountain, when you get up there, there's an observation tower that you can see further out onto, but when we got up there, the fog actually got denser, and we could barely see. So the bottom of the tower, from the top, the bottom of the tower was completely fogged in white. You couldn't see the bottom. It was, again, like looking down into water. So dense, you could not see down. So you couldn't see down the rest of the mountain at that point. But there were clickers sitting at the top, and the fiddle player at that time was long gone. He had left. Vamoose bye-bye. Now, it's just click. Hold on, I lost my pen. Just clickers sitting up there on the top of the observation tower, staring at us. It's honestly one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. One of the weirdest things. I've never seen anybody, a group of people, over 40 people probably. I say between 30 and 40, it was probably at least 40 people. Sitting there around the mountain, on top of a tower, in the fog, clicking sticks or bones together. It was unbelievable. So anyway, then we descended, and on the descent I had a clicker standing directly next to me, clicking in my ear the entire time. That was fun. So that ends my adventures with the clickers. They disappeared after that. We went to the other place, which is the Notch, the Franconia Notch. That's the path in the mountain with the staircase gouged into it. Let's see. It was a very difficult walk on the ground. The stairs were okay. I do fine on stairs, but there were a lot of steep inclines that were pretty rough. But it was honestly a gorgeous place. There were so many waterfalls, and just to be in between the two mountains, the mountain walls on each side are rock with moss covering, and there's water trickling down from it. It's honestly like being in a Middle Earth kind of place. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I met a strange person on the trail. There was this girl who was hiking ahead of us, but kept slowing down, and every time we stopped, she would stop, and she would watch us. I don't know what she was doing, but every time we would stop to take a picture or stop to look at something on the trail, she would stop and she would wait, and she would watch. I didn't understand why. She didn't work there. She was obviously a hiker, wasn't in fantastic shape, so I could tell she didn't do this every day. But I didn't understand it. She kept stopping, and she would talk to us sometimes. She'd be like, "Oh, crazy walk, wasn't that? Oh, did you see that animal over there?" No. But she kept like wanting to be with us. It was so strange. I didn't understand it, but that was just really interesting. Yeah, there was so many. The wooden stairways into the mountain were so beautiful, and there were overlooks. You can take a detour, and it extends like a pier out over the cliffside, and you can get photographs. Obviously, you can get a better view of the sheer drop beneath you. It's absolutely beautiful. Scary, but beautiful. And there was a snake. There was a little snake on the side. I got really close to it. You'll be able to see. I got some pictures of it, but there was a snake. That didn't last too long. It was about 2 hours of paths along the waterfalls and stuff, and then we came back down. It took us a while just because we kept stopping and taking a break. I had my mom and my aunt with me, so obviously I'm a little bit younger, so took some breaks, walked pretty slow, just taking our time. But about 2 miles, I forget how long it took us, probably somewhere around 2 hours. Not great, but we were taking our time, and it was a lot of stairs, so that's understandable. Maybe not even 2 hours. I'm not entirely sure how long it took. But after that, we got back to the hotel, and then the drama starts. Drama. We get to the hotel, and my aunt is the one that found this hotel, and she booked this one under the premise by the people. She called and asked by the people that this hotel had a heated pool. And we get there, and the first thing we want to do, we want to go up and unpack, and we want to go down to the pool. So we unpack our stuff, we relax for a second, we get changed into our bathing suits, and we go down to the pool, and we stick our feet in, and it is ice cold, as in pure ice. You could freeze to death in that kind of water. So obviously, not obviously, but she goes and asks, "Hey, isn't this pool supposed to be heated?" And they tell her, "Oh, it is. It's 78 degrees. Look, there's a thermometer on the wall right there that says the water is 78 degrees." And she starts throwing a little bit of a hissy fit on the maintenance guy. "Oh, 78 degrees isn't heated. I've been to hotels where it's in the 80s, upwards of the 90s. 78 degrees, you could refrigerate stuff in there. 78 degrees is not this, blah, 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 blah." Just on and on and on. And at this point, I'm a very strong-willed person and a bit of a troublemaker, so at this time, while she's arguing with the maintenance man, I slipped into the pool. I just sucked it up and plunged in, and I'm swimming, and I'm watching her, and the maintenance guy's looking at me like, she's in the pool. So I'm swimming around while she's trying to complain, "Nobody can swim in this pool, it's too cold," and I'm just swimming. So that was pretty funny. We did end up saying that she almost got to the point where she wanted to change hotels just for the sake of it, because she had felt like she'd been gypped, that they had been false advertising. But the maintenance people were working in there, and I'm not entirely sure if it's true or not, but we heard them talking like, "Oh, switch it on. Oh, is this working? Try this switch." And they did something. We heard a sound, and all of a sudden there's jacuzzi pumps in the pool, and all of a sudden hot water starts pumping out of the jacuzzi pumps. So we believe that the heat wasn't actually on, that the thermometer was set to heat the pool to 78 degrees, but it wasn't on. So I tried to keep the information that it started pumping hot water away from her, just because she was already throwing a fit, but that's pretty funny if that's true. I don't know for sure. Maybe they come on and off. Maybe they're not on consistently. They just reheat the pool if it starts to cool down. But I'm thinking they switched it on because they had forgotten to switch it on before. But that's okay. I still had fun. I froze to death in that water, but I survived, and it was fun. They also had fantastic coffee. Our hotel had a complimentary coffee bar, and they had squirts for different flavors you could put in it, but I drink mine, my coffee black, and that's how you tell the good quality of coffee, is when you don't add stuff to it, and when you don't add the cream and stuff to it, you can actually taste the brew of the coffee. So I know me some good coffee, and that was some gosh darn good coffee. Anyway, do I keep saying anyway? I feel like I do. Let's see. Okay, so after the pool, this is going to be a long video. After the pool, we ended up going to dinner. We went back to the room, cleaned up a bit, got all dolled up, and we went out to, I forget, it began with a G. I forget the name, and I forgot to write it down, but it was really nice. It was a steak place, but you guys know I don't really eat red meat, so I had a chicken marsala. Absolutely fantastic. This thick brown sauce with mushrooms over seasoned grilled chicken, just fantastic. I thought you're supposed to eat chicken marsala over pasta, but apparently not. They did it over vegetables, which was cool. I'm so glad to not have the extra carbs, but I'm just a little confused by that. But it was so good. Like, obviously I didn't say anything. It was delicious, and I enjoyed it. These two ladies, "My steak is too red. These vegetables are too firm. This potato is overcooked. Can I have more soda? Oh, this soda tastes weak." Everything you could possibly think of to complain about. Yep. And I'm not going to say much more of that because I know my mother watches my videos. She wasn't so much the one complaining. It was the other one, but that's okay because I love my aunt. I love her. If she ever sees this, I love you. You complain a lot. So yeah, that was interesting. And the waiter there, my mom has been in this habit lately of trying to play matchmaker. I think she's trying to figure out what my type is or something like that. But she keeps trying to find out if I think somebody's cute, if I think somebody has attractive features. But we also laugh because he reminds us of somebody at work, this goofy little kid at work, just because the way he smiled and his way of walking. It was kind of funny, but yeah, so she keeps trying to play matchmaker, and it's pretty funny. Love you, Mom, but it's not gonna happen. especially not out in New Hampshire. Let's see. Okay, so after dinner we headed back to the hotel just to relax a bit. We were all pretty tired at that point after a whole day of hiking and then going out to dinner, so we were ready to crash. I, at that point, so needed introvert time so badly, I actually hid out in the bathroom for a while, just scrolling on my phone and listening to music, just to get away for a little while, because I don't spend a lot of time around other women. I don't really get along with other women very well. I'm very much an introvert, so being around those two for so long, and they get so loud, I hid myself in the bathroom for a while and just relaxed. Then when I came out, I found out that my mom and I were going to be sharing a bed, which everybody wants to share a bed with their mom. So what we did is she slept normally on the bed, head on the pillow, feet at the end of the bed. I slept the opposite way. I got a blanket over me and I put my pillow down where her feet were and my feet were up where her head was. So it's reversed. But that just... And there's a separate blanket between us. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to try to make this as not weird as possible because I don't want to sleep with my mother. That's just kind of weird. So yeah, that was an interesting night. My back totally doesn't hurt from that. Let's see. In the morning, it was so strange. I think there was a wedding party staying at our hotel, so in the morning there's a complimentary breakfast. We went down there. All the tables are being taken up by individual families, like 2 people at this table, 2 people at this table, all the couples going to the wedding. So we found a table way in the back, and everybody's staring at us. I think what was happening is they were trying to decide who we could be in the wedding party, like who we're related to. Even though we're not in the wedding, they don't know that because everybody else is in the wedding. So they're like, oh, who are you related to? Oh, you must be from the groom's side. They didn't actually say any of that, they're just staring at us, and I'm like, look, they're staring, and my aunt would not believe me. She kept turning around. Nobody's staring at us. You're just being oversensitive. I'm like, no, they're staring at us. They're staring at us. They're staring at us. Hi. One guy's staring so intently, he went, just say, if you're gonna stare at somebody, talk. Don't just stare at them. If you have a question, ask it. Don't just stare at me, especially while I'm trying to eat my breakfast. That's so rude. But yeah, the entire room was crowded with the wedding party guests, so that was interesting. Then, after breakfast, our plan had been originally to go hiking, but we all decided we were way too tired to go hiking again. So we found this little train ride that went through the mountains. We were going to do that, but by the time we got there, the train was just leaving, and there was another one 2 hours later, but we decided not to do that because we didn't want to wait the 2 hours. So there were a few shops in the area, little like outlets and things like that. We went shopping around. Then we went to Subway for lunch, but we didn't eat there. We took our sandwiches and packed them up, and we went out to this little... It's a trading post, but it's got all sorts of things there. We put our blanket out on the grass, and we had our sandwiches there. Then we went into the trading post, and it's all sorts of, like, cultural stuff of that area. There's a lot of Native American history there, so they had lots of Native American crafts and that sort of thing. They had leather, everything. They had knives. They had just any sort of New Hampshire thing you can think of in the trading post. And attached to it, they had a little circus type thing. They had little rides. They had little shops and stuff. And then they had a performance. It was a performing bear, and I've never actually seen a bear in real life. I've never seen one. It was really kind of sad, actually, because it was kept in such a small, confined area, and it had a chair and a ball to play with, and it's just sitting on the chair. It was in between the performance times. We didn't actually see the performance, but the cage that it stays in is so incredibly small. I couldn't help but feel bad for it. I don't know, I'm weird about that. Like, I love the idea of circuses and that sort of thing because I have family history. I think it was my great-great aunt, I believe. Either my great-great aunt or my great-great grandmother, I think it's aunt, was a lion tamer. She was a female lion tamer in the circus, and I think that's absolutely cool. It's so awesome to have a relative that's a female lion tamer. But at the same time, I see the kind of conditions that the animals are in. I mean, this big, massive bear has a chair, a ball, and a tiny cage. I don't like that. As much as I love circuses, I don't like to see that. So, enough about that. I know that's a political thing. I know that's a big controversy. I try to steer away from things like that on my channel because I want everybody to just have fun here. I want this to be an even ground, but that's just, in a journal I will express, that's just my personal opinion, is I don't mind circuses, but I would like to see the treatment of the animals improve. I'm not against captivity, but I'm against, it's almost neglect, or I don't know, I don't like those conditions. If they had a bigger cage, if they had more things to play with, if they had, I mean, he didn't even really have cover from the sun. I just felt really bad about that. I don't know, that's not my battle. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Anyway, sorry to get down about that. That was just something that was bothering me. After the trading post and all that madness, we drove out to the Mount Washington Hotel. Now this place is one of the creepiest non-abandoned places I have ever been, because I've been to a lot of abandoned places that were creepy, but this place was open, functioning, swank, tons of people. There was a wedding going on there, so lots of madness, but it was open, and obviously a booming business, but it was so creepy. You can walk up to it and there's just this eeriness. It's against the Mount Washington, so it's got this giant mountain range in the background, and it's all white, and it's got a red roof. Honestly, it looks like Dracula's castle. You guys will see it in the video, in the photos that I post. I'll make a photo compilation of my trip, but you can see in the photos it looks like Dracula's castle. It's so creepy. And inside, I'll tell you guys, we went inside. There was this porchway with chairs and couches that overlooked the mountainside. We sat down and we actually had dessert there. We had coffee and dessert. It was so fun, and we felt so classy and stuff like that. It was so nice. But we actually got to walk around the hotel because there's shops in there. It's massive. It's bloody massive. We walked around, but the thing that struck me most, and I'll show you guys it, was a painting. One painting that stood out the most to me, and I need to do my research on it. My mom swears up and down this place is haunted. I don't agree. I think that's kind of silly, but she swears up and down it's haunted. And if it were, I think the source would be that painting. I'll show you. It's a painting of a woman. It's up high. There's an archway inside the hotel that goes into the rooms where the guests stay, but there's an archway in the hall, and at the top of the archway there's a painted balcony. It's all painted. It's a balcony and a woman standing out on the balcony, and she's in a long flowing white dress, and she's got a fan in her hand, and her brown hair all tied up in a bun, and she's staring straight down, and the way her eyes are painted, no matter where you're standing, she's staring at you, directly staring at you. It is the most offsetting painting I've ever seen in face-to-face, like in reality, that I've seen. Because I've seen a lot of creepy paintings on the internet, but this one is probably the most disturbing I've ever come across unintentionally. Like outside of an art museum, outside of the internet, the creepiest one I've ever stumbled across, because it was just so foreboding. The way she stared down from the balcony at you, it's so off-putting. So I need to do my research. I would love to find out who that was. Anyway, yeah, so we spent time there, we had dessert, we had coffee, and then we started to drive home back. Like I said, it was between 3 and 4 hours. We got in late last night? Yeah, it was last night we got in, and we just crashed, and this morning we went to church, and Mom and I went out, we had lunch, and just bebopped around for a while. Then I went to the gym and stuff, but that was pretty much the highlight of my week, was the trip in New Hampshire. So, lots of fun. I'm completely exhausted. Like, I'm so ready for things to be back to normal for a little while, but it was so much fun and I had a great time. So, I guess that's about it. This video is over half an hour now, so I'll wrap it up. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!